Patriots are playing very sadly in New York today. This is Past the Rock.
Hey yo, could one of y'all pass the gosh darn rock? Hey yo, I'm trying, I ain't lying, and hosting this will be Brian. He posting like Kobe Bryant, he flying to see the pilot. Hit the hezzy, we got Jesse, opinions get kinda messy. A fan of out of lefties, from football to racing jet skis. This is Pass the Rock, don't stop the shot clock. Pass the slap shot, come on, now let's talk Pass the Rock.
Jesse, I think you're right. I think we need a line in that song for our friends Zach and Jack. Don't make them feel so alienated, but it is a banger. Welcome to Pass the Rock on Monday, October 10th. We got a little baseball, got a little football. Jack, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. I'm ready for some NLDS action. I mean, it's been a whole week since I've gotten to see my Dodgers play, and what better than a nice little rivalry matchup against your Padres?
That's right. The good news is you got one more week to watch them play, and then they'll be done.
Oh,
Zach,
yeah.
how are you feeling?
Sorry,
Zach, how are you feeling?
Me? I mean, I'm feeling good. I mean, I got to see the Mets lose 101 wins, leading the division for 175 days, all for absolutely nothing. The funniest part was seeing Mr. Met playing his little trumpet as Edwin Diaz, gets out there to narco. The stadium's electric, and, he's going to try to hold the Padres to that 4-run lead, get the Mets right back into the game. And the game ended 6-0. It was a complete collapse for the Mets, and the baseball world as a whole is laughing at them, including me as a proud Phillies fan today.
I think you're laughing at them more than most. I don't think the all-time team for the Yankees could have gotten more than 3 hits last night against Musgrove. But want to go back to Jesse. Jesse, how are you feeling today?
Well, on the line of Zach saying the whole baseball world laughing at you, I'm feeling somewhere in between George Springer and Bo Bichette right now. So,
yeah, the Blue Jays had a historic collapse, that's for sure. I didn't even turn that game on yesterday or the other day because of what the score was, and then I had to turn it on to see the rest of that train wreck. But Zach's already given us his one take about the MLB. Didn't even let me get through how everybody was doing.
Nope,
so I'm going to give you mine.
Too excited.
Padres pitching and clutch hitting from the bottom of the lineup. If that continues, it's going to be a tough series for the Dodgers. I still think the Dodgers win in 5, but I do think the way the bottom of the lineup's been batting, and Soto actually had a couple of clutch hits last night. So excited to see that. But I just think this Dodgers team is too good, and I think they win in 5. Jack, what is your take going into the division series?
And I'll just start by saying I agree with you there. I think the Padres are going to keep it a lot closer than people think. But my take for the division series is I am super high on these Cleveland Guardians. They looked awesome in their series against the Rays. Their pitching was phenomenal. They had some really clutch moments from young guys. Oscar Gonzalez hits the rookie, hits the walk-off to send them to the next round. I think that this is a team that can make some noise in the playoffs. And they're playing a Yankees team that they almost like stumbled into the playoffs a little bit. I mean, Aaron Judge was a little slow to end the season. He got to his 62, but it took him a lot longer than it should have to get there. And I don't know. Something about the Yankees they just don't feel like they're a cohesive unit. They don't feel like they're playing their best baseball right now. And I honestly think the Guardians are going to pull off that upset.
Okay, so big take. I do think that Judge got 62 out of the way. I'm a little worried for the Guardians that now he gets back to raking, but we'll see. Jesse, as a person who has had a lot of heartache sports-wise, specifically the Minneapolis Miracle and other such victories, the Nola no call when the Rams, got the free ticket to the Super Bowl. Tell me a little bit about your Blue Jays situation on Saturday.
The Toronto Maple Leafs have officially passed the torch to the Toronto Blue Jays for the most embarrassing sports loss in recent history. I mean, 8-1, 2 1/3 innings to play, or 3 1/3, whatever it was. You have Kevin Gausman, the guy you paid, I don't know how many millions of dollars to pitch that game, 1 earned run through 6. He got the first 2 outs of the inning. I don't know what the Jays were thinking, putting in these random schmoes from the bullpen to put the game away, but this is what it is. And now after all of that, oh my God, just the one play, everyone's seen it, I'm sure. The teardrop, that was Springer's ball. the entire way there. Bo Bichette tried to make a hero play. Don't blame him. And now I'm the only one whose team is out of these playoffs. So segueing into that, give me your guys' championship series predictions, starting with Zach.
All right. Well, I mean, I do think the Braves are really good, but I like the momentum that the Phillies have right now. So I'm going the Phillies in that series. And then, Jack, I'm riding with you. I agree with what you guys have been saying. It's going to be closer than people think, but I think the Dodgers will still win it, thinking like 6 games around that. I feel like it's like a 6-game series. And then
It's
moving
best of 5. It's best of 5, though.
Oh, that's right. Okay, well, it'll be like a 3-1 then.
If we get to game 6, I'm going to feel real good about myself.
No, I keep forgetting that it's a little bit different for MLB. But moving over, I actually have the Mariners getting the upset. I really like the momentum they have right now. I mean, first time in 20 years, they have to make some noise. At worst, it's going to be a close series. At best, they're going to win like 3-1 as well. And then just I feel like the Yankees, they're very powerful. Judge is going to be a lot more relaxed compared to the chase for 62. So I feel like we're going to get Mariners, Yankees in the championship series.
Yeah, if I could take the helm here, it was really hard for me not to just pick chalk, not to pick these teams that didn't have to use any arms or have any pressure this past weekend. They got to all sit home. I did pick one upset, and that was what I think is America's darling, the Seattle Mariners. Everybody wants to root for them because it's been so long since they've been in it. I think they can come in and upset the Astros, which is the opposite of America's darling. But so I like Yankees Mariners, and I like Braves Dodgers. I think that Braves train is just too hot right now. I think the Phillies had a great series, obviously, against St. Louis. I also think that St. Louis series was probably the easiest of the 4 this weekend in the wild card round to go in and win. But I do think the Phillies, they take 1, but I think ultimately Atlanta wins 3-1, the Dodgers win 3-2, and then you have Mariners Yankees in the AL. To you, Jack.
Yeah, so I agree with you on the NL. I think it does end up being Dodgers Braves. I think that the Dodgers, like you said, I think it probably goes 5. I wouldn't be surprised if it ended in 4. I think the Padres definitely win a game. I think that the Braves honestly might be the second best team in baseball right now after the Dodgers. I mean, their lineup is stacked from Acuna to even like rookies like Michael Harris. I mean, they're awesome. And the AL is where I differ from you guys. I think the Astros are a phenomenal baseball team. And as much as I hate them and I wish that the Mariners would beat them because the Mariners are awesome, but God, the Astros are so good. Verlander is like a fine wine. It only gets better with age. That Framber Valdez was an awesome pitcher this year. Javier, top to bottom, and the Astros lineup, I mean, they're just so good. I really think that there's no way the Mariners are talented enough. And then, like I alluded to earlier, I think that the Guardians pull off the upset against the Yankees. I really don't think the Yankees are playing their best baseball right now. And it's hard to, pick up that momentum, especially you've now had a week off. You stumbled a little bit into the playoffs. You sort of let that cold linger a little bit. And the Guardians are on fire. They just beat the crap out of the Rays. So I really think that the Guardians are they're gonna dominate with their pitching, and those bats will clutch up when they need to, and they pull off the upset in 5.
Maybe math was taught differently to me when I went through school, which was several years before you did. But they won 2 one-run games against Tampa.
But the Guardians did not dominate.
They gave up 1 run over the course of how many innings was it?
15 that is true. And they only scored 3.
Look,
if you're going to pitch like that, it doesn't matter.
You can definitely say that their pitching dominated the Rays. You cannot say that their batting did. 1 run in 15 innings does not scream dominance to me. Okay, that screams, we're just waiting for someone to get lucky. Okay?
It's
the Guardians did not dominate. And to be fair, Tyler Glasnow, great game. He totally did a great job for the Rays. But you cannot say that the Guardians dominated the Rays while only putting up 1 run in a 15-inning game. There's no way you can say that.
That's a fair point, but I honestly look. Their pitching was absolutely dominant, and there were timely hits. They hit the ball when it mattered, and the Rays didn't, and that's how you win games. And I honestly think that that's the trend that's going to continue. I think that they're going to keep coming up with these big hits and big moments, and I don't know. I don't have a good feeling about the Yankees.
Still not dominant though.
Until you two can get along, you're not going to be part of the song. It's just Jesse and I. That's my final decision as the dad of this group. All right, let's get to Monday Night Football. Raiders at Chiefs tonight. I'm going to start with Jesse since he's ready to jump in there with some football takes. What do you think about tonight?
All right, so the last 5 matchups between the Raiders and the Chiefs, Kansas City's won 4 of them. Average margin of victory is 18 points. This could be a close one. It could be an absolutely not close one. I say it's a close one. I think the Raiders finally getting that offensive line to click a little bit. Josh Jacobs has looked better in recent games. I think it's the Darren Waller coming out party tonight. So I still think the Chiefs are going to win, but not by 25. Brian, I know your margin of victory is somewhere in this range. What do you think?
Yeah, the only chance the Raiders have to even staying in this game is if Kansas City's looking forward to next Sunday's game against Buffalo. I don't think they have a chance at all. I would love to see Darren Waller break out. I know many people with him as their tight end are very disappointed in what's gone on so far. And you would think with the addition of Devontae Adams that, it might free him up a little bit, but that has not been the case. I think it's KC 31-14 to you, Zach.
You guys talking, about Darren Waller potential coming out party. I think, first of all, this game, I don't think it's going to be close. Kansas City 4-1 the last 5, as Jesse mentioned. And with that 18-point margin of victory being the average, I think the Chiefs can take this by 21. The Chiefs are far and away the better team right now against the Raiders. And I think this is the night where Mahomes makes a case, for being the MVP again. The media is going to eat it up. He's going to throw for like 300+ yards, 3 touchdowns. He's going to have an amazing game, and we're going to start discussing him as an MVP candidate again after tonight. I'm sure he's already being discussed about, but he's going to be like really talked about. Like everyone's, everyone right now is all about, Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts and then Mahomes. Mahomes going to leapfrog both from tonight's performance.
All right, so that's 3 picks for the Chiefs, all right? So going over to you, Jack, are you going to take the other side and make sure the bottom of our screen doesn't look all Chiefs?
Okay, I honestly think you should throw me off the show if I didn't pick the Chiefs. But the Chiefs, 100%, I think are going to win this game. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's closer than people think and the Raiders find a way to Raiders the game away. I mean, it's happened time and time again against the Chiefs where you go into the game thinking the Chiefs are going to kill them, and then the Raiders are like, oh, maybe we can win this thing, and then they choke at the end, as the Raiders always do. I would not be surprised at all if they pull one of those again. But either way, whether it's a blowout or the Raiders pull a Raiders, I think the Chiefs have it pretty much in the bag.
All right. So looks like 4 Chiefs picks, probably not uncommon across the NFL. Let's move on. We had a new segment last week, random takes for your thoughts. We went with players. This time I'm going to give you a random team, and I need a take. Who would like to go first?
Give me it.
All right, Zach. Oh, Jesse, you ready? You'll never guess who your random team is, the Carolina Panthers. Why don't you break a little news for us?
All right, Carolina Panthers, DJ Moore will be off the team within 21 days.
Ooh.
Okay.
I like
Tell me why. Is there turmoil in Carolina?
I'll tell you why. They're not going anywhere with him. They're dragging him down. This is a burning ship that he is unfortunately one of the captains of, and he's going down with it. I mean, if it's not, they can't trade Christian McCaffrey. I mean, I don't think anyone is willing to give up that much. I think DJ Moore, the way that Baker Mayfield plays, his value is going to be down. So teams, it's going to be easier to obtain him. Considering he hasn't topped 50 yards once this season. So DJ Moore, though, love the guy. Seems like a great guy. Seems like a very talented receiver. Would love to see him flourish somewhere else. We've heard a couple rumors about trade destinations. I've heard that a lot of teams are already in talks with him about him, but he's not going to be a Panther for too much longer, hopefully for his own sake.
Awesome. I would look, as a person that went way too far all in on DJ Moore, I would love to see him with the Packers or somebody with a quarterback. So
give him to the Ravens.
Over to you.
Oh my God.
I know.
That'd be good.
Over to you, Jack. I give you the Cincinnati Bengals.
Ooh, okay. Wow. So that's very interesting. They last night, I thought they looked really good. But honestly, my take with the Bengals is Zach Taylor is not that guy. Like, they are not going to win a Super Bowl as long as Zach Taylor is their head coach. Their play calling is just really not great. And their players are phenomenal. You got Burrow, Mixon, Chase, Higgins. I mean, they're stacked. But Zach Taylor is absolutely getting carried. And they're gonna be a playoff team. It's a struggle it's really bad for the Bengals because they're never gonna be bad enough with this talent to the point that they're gonna want to fire Zach Taylor. So I honestly, for their sake, I don't know how something changes, but it needs to. I just don't think they're gonna be good enough.
So none of you will remember this, but Dan Marino got to the Super Bowl in his second year and never got back. And I remember just the pressure that would kill him late in his career because he had never gotten back. I really worry for Joe Burrow that the same thing happens to him. Yeah. I don't think it will, but I worry for him just because of an LSU guy and all. So over to you, Zach. You'll never guess who you got, and it is the Dallas Football Cowboys.
Oh, of course it's the Dallas Cowboys. You want me to talk about the freaking Dallas Cowboys? All right.
I do.
All right. Well, I mean, as an Eagles fan, of course, I'm optimistic for next week, but Dallas has looked really good. Micah Parsons right now is the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year. Absolutely. I'm pleasantly surprised with Cooper Rush's performance, but they are definitely not relying on him as much. People everyone's like, oh, he's undefeated as a starter. He threw 16 passes yesterday. I'm not, super buying into the whole idea of there being a QB competition, but right now, I mean, maybe they ride the hot hand in Cooper Rush. I mean, undefeated as a starter. There's going to be a few questions in Dallas, but I don't think it's going to shift anything. I mean, Jerry Jones made that comment a few weeks ago. Clearly a joke at this point. So cautiously optimistic heading into next week against the Cowboys, though.
Okay. I got the 49ers, and here are my thoughts on the 49ers. They remind me so much of the Saints of the early 90s, late 80s, which were all defense. They had the dome patrol, whatever, and no offense. And I just worry that Garoppolo is going to have enough offense, be able to provide enough offense for that team to go far. Now, that's what's happened the last couple of years. They got to the NFC Championship last year, and maybe it was a similar type situation. But Brandon Ayuk has to get a lot better than what he's been doing just to give them another option on the other side, because Debo's going to do what he does. Jeff Wilson Jr.'s looked really good as a running back, and they need another, whether it's Kittle or Ayuk, they need somebody, and I know that's not how that's pronounced, somebody else to provide something, or else that team's not going to go far. I do think they win the division, though, because the NFC West is, unless Seattle jumps up, who was very impressive yesterday, but we'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to some takes. Giants-Packers, another London game. I saw this random report that the NFL is looking at the possibility of a 4-team European division. And let me just say, if it guarantees me a 9:30 a.m. Sunday game every week, I am all in on that. So we're going to start with you, Jack. I know you love the Packers.
I very much do not. I need to rant about this Packers team because it's honestly getting on my nerves at this point that their incompetence. I mean, on paper, this defense should be a top 3 defense in the league. I mean, you've got a lockdown corner in Jair Alexander. Rasul Douglas was all pro last year. Devondre Campbell was all pro last year. I mean, you've got and Rashawn Gary looks unbelievable this year also. But this defense just is getting carved apart. And I think that comes down to play calling. I think Joe Barry is really holding back this defense. And they are a team that they honestly built the team to rely on the defense this year. You trade away Devontae Adams and you don't bring in any other receivers. I guess you're sort of saying, I trust that this defense will make up for where our offense can't. And it's so far to this point in the season, they just have not done that whatsoever. So something needs to change. Either you fire Joe Barry and you bring in a new defensive mind next season, and hopefully that makes it better. Or the route that I would go is you go out there, do whatever you need to do to get a receiver. Maybe you sign OBJ and he's there for the playoff run. Maybe you call up the Panthers and look for DJ Moore, which I think would be an awesome fit there. Whatever you have to do to get receivers and make your offense better, you have to do, because this defense is not going to be able to be relied on as they thought it would.
Mm-hmm. Jack, I just want to add on to that real quick. You mentioned earlier, how the front office and everything's been incompetent. We've known they've been incompetent, especially with you trade away your best receiver you've had for the last decade plus, probably one of the best receivers in franchise history, honestly. And you just keep pissing off Aaron Rodgers year after year. He almost left. Let's not forget, he almost left or retired. And I don't know how they got on this day, But now he's here. He has no reliable weapons. They're not winning games. He's not able to bail them out because of the talent that they lack. It's just awful. And it really sucks seeing the Packers, who have been such a mainstay as a contender in the NFL for pretty much a decade plus. And now finally it's coming to an end like this. Like this is how it ends. It's just really sad to see.
To me, the only logical explanation for any of this is that they want to just piss off Aaron Rodgers as much as he can because he plays better when he's angry. That's the only reason.
No, look, the only word that I can use to describe it is frustrating, because you look at this team and they should be so much better than they are. I mean, you have an all-time quarterback. You've got this defense that should be great on paper. And there's not much they have to do to get themselves better. Bring in a receiver, get some better defensive play calling. That's it. And you're a Super Bowl contender. It's just frustrating.
I think we need to put a little bit on Aaron Rodgers here, okay? I do agree that he does not have the weapons. I think because of his attitude of like working with the younger receivers, I don't think he's putting people in the best position to be successful. I don't think he's out there just throwing perfect throws and people are dropping it every play. You know, there's a lot to be desired there too. I'm not saying he doesn't make good throws, because he does, but there was somebody commenting last night about how he had 3 or 4 throws yesterday. No one was in the space, and how he's going to guarantee that it was the wide receiver's fault, but that a lot of these look like maybe Aaron Rodgers made the wrong read and should have made another read, whatever. So he's at fault. I don't feel bad at all. I love the fact that the Packers are struggling. It's a beautiful thing, because Aaron Rodgers, you know, let's just say he learned his great team atmosphere from his mentor, Brett Favre, who never mentored him because he was a rookie. So, you know, you get what you get. Moving on to the Giants, let's talk about a team with a winning record. The Giants, 4-1, about to go on a run. Don't be worried about the Cowboys, Zach. Be worried about these Giants. Next 5 games, Ravens, probably a loss. Jaguars, Seahawks, Texans, Lions. They could be 8-2 going into Week 11, which then they run a gauntlet of NFC East teams. 2 of those games being the Commanders. So they got a nice little schedule set up for them. So, you know, don't count the chickens in the NFC roost just yet.
I'm not counting anything. I mean, the Giants, Brian DeBull is doing such a great job coaching. I feel like he has to be the main person to be like he's the guy who I'm saying he's responsible for this turnaround the most, because I don't see the Giants as that talented of a team, but the way that they're being coached, the way that everything's working, it's just clicked and it's working, and they're 4-1, and I still can't believe it. Like I was saying the other day, like this is probably the least talented 4-1 team I've ever seen, but they're 4-1 for a reason. And that reason I think is coaching, and it's just phenomenal for them.
That reason might be number 26 as well. Jesse, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he might help a little bit.
Saquon is matchup proof at this point. I think he's back to his old days. Jesse, any thoughts on Barkley?
Man, Barkley looked great. I love how much they've been using him in the Wildcat formation, just throwing him in at quarterback. And even like, I'm excited to see him throw a pass. He's mainly just been running it and on a keeper on these Wildcat ones. But I mean, he's just looked phenomenal. It's great to see him back out there. I trust him more at quarterback with the game on the line than Daniel Jones, though. Like, I'm sorry, but if it's 4th and 2, put Saquon at quarterback. Don't even give the ball to Daniel Jones.
I don't know. Daniel Jones had a few nice throws yesterday. I mean, obviously he threw the ball.
Wait till it matters.
Over 25 times, so a few nice throws is not good enough. But let's move on. Lions, Patriots. I'll stand by my take. The best logo in the history of the NFL is the Patriots center logo where he's hiking the ball. Jesse, I know you're a Pats fan. Your thoughts on this game and specifically the Lions?
So coming into this game, the Lions, number 1 in points scored and number 1 in points allowed. Truly the duality of NFL football. The NFL record for the most points scored is 606 by the Peyton Manning Broncos. They're on pace to beat that record, and they're also on pace to beat the most points allowed record by a lot. Now, coming into this game, like I said, they were the top scoring offense. They got shut out, so that pace is a little bit back now, but still well on pace, giving up 29 points to the Patriots for that most points allowed ever in a season. It's 5 99 is the pace that they're on right now. They could easily go over 600. And by the way, for anybody wondering, Damian Harris, bad hamstring injury on the weekend. Don't know how serious it's going to be, but if he's out, Ramondre Stevenson, RB1 for the rest of the season.
Wow.
So just check. I mean, I don't know what I'd have to look up his owner percentage.
He's pretty owned, but
I would say so, but it's not 100. So just take a quick look. You never know. Going to you, Zach. Lions, Patriots. What you got?
Man, I mean, this is the Lions team I was very high on entering the season, especially, I mean, I was very high as soon as the week 1 matchup was over because they played my Eagles. I watched that entire game. They looked really good then. Of course, the defense wasn't great, but the offense really, I thought something was special there. And then they come out and they do not score a single point against this Patriots defense. And we know this Patriots defense is good. We know Belichick's a defensive-minded coach, but this is an offense that I would have considered top 10 entering this week. Now it's definitely a lot more questionable. And this game makes me think, are the same old lines the same old line? Are they back? Like, is it the same old lines that we've always seen throughout the past decade plus? Like, it's just a very concerning game when your team is basically dictated by how the offense does, and the offense puts up a goose egg. So I'm a little concerned, especially for fantasy value as well. If they can't get things going after this week, I'm just concerned for the Lions as a whole.
Yeah, it's a little bit of the first 5 weeks. You go back and forth. Oh, this team's going to be great, and then you show the Jaguars were looking good. Now they look terrible. The Cowboys look terrible. Now they look good. And I think it was a little bit of a overreaction to the Lions, but and we loved them. Watching them on HBO this summer. So, but it was not good to go into New England and get totally shut out. So
a goose egg.
They're gonna have 2 weeks to think about it, by the way, because they're going into a bye week next week. So that one's gonna soak in for a while, and then they get the Cowboys week 7.
Oh, Jesus Christ! All right, the Lions are done.
Ramondre, by the way, Ramondre Stevenson owned in 88% of Yahoo leagues. So you got a 1 in 10 chance of at least giving a shot on the waiver wires. Take a look.
Yep.
Seahawks Saints. I was at this game and I have 2 Seahawks takes. I don't want to say anything about the Saints at this point. Geno Smith is definitely a top 12 fantasy quarterback rest of the season. That's my prediction. He looks 1,000 times better than Russell Wilson, number one. And he was dropping some dimes yesterday that a seasoned quarterback, granted he is a seasoned quarterback, but doesn't have a ton of starts in his career, makes. And he kept them in that game. And if it wasn't for the Taysom Hill superstar show, he might have won that game. Also, run, do not walk to pick up Kenneth Walker. Okay. Next 4 weeks, Cardinals, Chargers, Giants, Cardinals, all great running back matchups. And unfortunately, Rashad Penny out for the season with a broken fibula, I believe. So I think this is one of those times where you have the opportunity to pick somebody up mid-season that's going to make a serious impact on your team. I'm all in on Ken Walker.
Yeah, I would Ken Walker take for sure. I had one league where I had a Javonte Williams injury. And I don't want to say I was preying on Rashad Penny's downfall because I had also been stashing Kenneth Walker in that league. But I get well soon, Rashad Penny. But my God, this is a blessing for me. I needed it so badly. And I'm so excited about Kenneth Walker this year. He looked awesome in that game. I mean, that explosive, what was it, 70-yard touchdown run? Yeah. I mean, he had other good carries too. But that run in particular, I'm like, this guy's got talent. This guy could really be something special.
Yeah. Zach, what did you think of my pun of run, don't walk to pick up Ken Walker?
I thought it was solid. I was just thinking about, with Kenneth Walker being the hot, I think about like Kenneth Walker being the hot fantasy pickup mid-season. Reminds me a lot of Cordell Patterson last year when everyone was starting to clamor for him, being like, he's going to be the guy. And then like he was the guy for a few weeks. And then by the end of the season, he fizzled out. But it was just like, I remember last year, it was all about Cordell Patterson, all about him. So
Good thing
It's
Ken
gonna be
Walker's like
flashback.
10 years younger than Patterson.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so he might be a little bit more reliable, but we'll see.
I think he's a league winner. I think this is the time. So, Dolphins Jets. So the Dolphins are on their 6th quarterback. I think I saw a great situation or a great tweet where they said the Dolphins are so anti the league's concussion policy that 3 years ago they got rid of the helmet from the logo.
Yeah, I
So,
saw that.
Jack, going to you, Brees Hall.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was just talking about Kenneth Walker, who's another great rookie running back, but Brees Hall is special. He was unbelievable in this game. And honestly, I think he was the key to victory for the Jets in this one. I mean, he had 91 yards on the ground, 100 yards through the air, almost 200 yards from scrimmage, which is absurd. And he's just explosive. He's a great between tackles runner. And he's the guy for the Jets. I know Michael Carter got a little bit of the goal line work, but that tended to happen after like a big Brees Hall carry. And they're like, we're going to give him a rest. But Brees Hall is going to get that work, and he's proven that he's a guy so far. He's been consistent throughout the season. I think the rest of the way he's at minimum an RB2, if not an RB1 the rest of the way. And next season, he's going to be a first-round pick in your fantasy draft because this guy is really special.
Yeah, he got caught at the 1 twice. Zach Wilson was going to have a much better game, and obviously he would have had a much better game. So you're right. When he got subbed out, it wasn't because they were changing their strategy on the goal line. He just, had a long run. Zach, what do we do with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill now that who knows what's happening at quarterback?
Yeah, you gotta be careful with those guys, especially for fantasy value right now. It's scary right now with the Dolphins. I mean, you really don't know who their quarterback's going to be. And if it is Skylar Thompson for a few weeks, that's really concerning for their fantasy value. It's like I wouldn't be trading them at all. I think you still hold on to them because, nothing's been said that like Tua's out for the season or anything. You can like hold out hope for Tua to come back. But the Dolphins literally played like a team that was a quarterback away from being like good and playoff contenders like we all expected them to be first 3 weeks in. If Tua comes back within the next like 3-4 weeks, they can still sneak in. If not, it really sucks that like this is how the Dolphins season's going. Like having to rely on Teddy Bridgewater, if he's okay. I hope he's okay. Teddy Bridgewater and a rookie 7th round quarterback to get you through a season. It's really rough to see. And I hope that everything's okay with their quarterback room come mid-season. But if it's not by then, you're going to have to bench Jalen Waddle and maybe at best put Hill as like a flex, which is really crazy to say right now, but we're going to have to keep monitoring that situation.
And if you're good enough to have Hill as a potential flex, then you're not so worried about that situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But to be fair, you have players you draft in the 8th round becoming your wide receiver 1 sometimes. So you never know.
For sure. Jesse, where do the Dolphins go from here?
Well, ranking in the division, I mean, bad loss to the Jets. Thankfully for them, their next 4 weeks are not too bad. They get the Vikings, Steelers, Lions, and Bears. So, barring a Tua out for the rest of the season, if he could come back week 10 or week 12 or anything like that, playoff hopes are still on the table. They're 3-2 currently, but like Zach said, if the quarterback situation does not improve, they are going to fall so fast from first to worst in the AFC East. I mean, the Patriots, this is not a year for them to make the playoffs. I could still see them finishing with around 7 or 8 wins, which could be more than the Dolphins if the quarterback situation does not improve. I mean, it's bad. Skylar Thompson did not look great. Tyreek Hill, I think, is pretty safely quarterback proof at this point. Like he's going to get his, but definitely not reaching that 30-40 point ceiling that you drafted him in the first 3 rounds for. But it looks rough for the Dolphins right now. And I just feel so bad because you go from beating, the AFC champion of this year that many people think, the Buffalo Bills, to losing to the Jets by 20. You hate to see it. So if they don't get Tua or Teddy back, this is going to be like a 6-11 finish.
Yeah, Jesse, you mentioned, with the whole division, with the Bills probably taking it, Patriots might just miss out. What do you think of the Jets now, since they could definitely be in the mix for a wild card spot? Do you think that they have a shot for it?
I like that you say it. I do. I think that at this point, we had 2 weeks ago, I was saying the Jaguars were going to win the AFC South. So you never know what's going to happen this year in football. For the Jets, I mean, they played phenomenally on both sides of the ball. The defensive rookies have been looking great so far. They get the Packers next week. That's going to be a tough one. But then we're going to love this stretch. They get the Broncos, which you heard it here first. They're winning that game. And then they get the Patriots, Bills, Patriots for the next 3 weeks. So lots of division. So I think that week 8, 9, 10 stretch, or actually they get the bye then, but that's going to be where we see the real Jets come out. They also get a pretty nice end to the season. The last few weeks, they get the Lions, Jaguars, Seahawks, and Dolphins. So if that's a rough end there, they could make a little stretch, win 4 or 5 games in a row, sneak into the playoffs at 9 and 8. I could definitely see it happening.
We'll see.
Well, and let's not count them out against the Packers. I mean, that could be a win. You never know. What about the Packers? The Packers taking the New York Gauntlet 2 weeks in a row, Giants, Jets.
Boy.
Let's move on to Falcons Bucks as the NFC South correspondent. I'll take this one. Same old story, NFL officiating. You heard me complain about it last week. Jerome Boger's quote after that roughing the passer penalty at the end of the game. Brady got the call. They got to kneel out the game. If I had been Arthur Smith, I would have lost my job and my freedom because they would have had to have arrested me. What I had was the defender grab the quarterback while he was still in the pocket and unnecessarily throwing him to the ground. Where is he supposed to throw him? Okay. If you look at that play in the middle of the tackle, Brady puts his foot up, almost like trying to kick him. Okay. Just so he could, I don't know, say that he tried to break his leg. I don't know. The NFL officiating is absolutely terrible. I go back to my take last week, put an eye in the sky rep up in the booth. That's just like, Jerome, there's no damn way that we're going forward with this call. We're changing it. We're moving to something else. It was ridiculous. It gave them the win. If they had, had to punt, let's say the Falcons come through and score, you got a 3-way tie at the top here. Actually, Atlanta would be first in the division then. They would have been 3-2 with the Saints and Bucks at 2 and 3. It's insane, and I don't know how long this has to happen. I really look forward to Brady retiring, but now that he's getting divorced, he may never retire.
I mean, look, this week, this roughing the passer call convinced me more than you did last week. I mean, I was sort of fighting back against you last week. This was unbelievable. I mean, this was one of the worst calls I've ever seen. There was just objectively a sack. I mean, it's the rules of football. Are we playing two touch? Are we playing flag football? I mean, what are you supposed to do with the guy? I don't understand. Like, honestly, I think if you're gonna make that call, I think you have to explain what you can do differently to what's the legal way to tackle a quarterback if that's not it. It's really bad. The NFL, honestly, if they want to keep calling those as roughing the passers, that they gotta be really clear about what is a legal tackle and what isn't, because I don't get it, and I don't think anyone else does.
Ref must have had Buck spread.
He had to. He had to. Okay, let's move on. 49ers, Panthers, an old school NFC West matchup for those of you that remember the divisions before 2002. Jack, this Panthers team, obviously we had a big firing in the NFL this week. So today, why don't you talk a little bit about Matt Rule and what they need to do going forward?
Yeah, look, so I think that was a very good move for them, the firing of Matt Rule. It was time. He ran his course. He got his seasons, and they've been the same. They've been the same team under Matt Rule, and it's a good move. But I think that it's time to really just they need to completely get rid of the Matt Rule era. I think they have to hard sell at the trade deadline. I think DJ Moore is a candidate to go for sure. I've talked about it a couple times already, but I think Robbie Anderson is a guy that potentially gets traded. He's getting up there in age. And I really think you have to explore trading Christian McCaffrey, because he's at a point right now where he has been healthy this season, and knock on wood that he stays healthy, but he has been healthy this season for the first time in the last 3 years. And he's looked like himself. He's looked very good. And I don't think that his trade value will ever be as high again as it is right now in this moment. I think they have to capitalize on that, get a high draft pick, and then get a high draft picks for the other guys on their team. Make this draft their year. Make this the year that they build their future. And I think that's what they have to do. They're not going to win a championship with this core. And it's better to – I think you got to go to one end of the spectrum rather than just sitting in purgatory in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at like the Panthers roster. One guy that sticks out. I mean, of course, I'm thinking selfishly for my Eagles, but defensive lineman Brian Burns sticks out a lot as a guy that will also get he'll get a premium asset for sure. He's 24 years old, 29 and a half sacks and 6 forced fumbles in 53 career games. I mean, he is for sure getting a premium asset. I would be shocked if he got any lower than like a second, third round pick, like anything lower than that, because like in the NFL, those are considered premium assets, whereas we don't think they are. But like second, third round pick, I can totally see the Panthers getting 1 or 2 of those for an asset like Brian Burns. And then we're talking about the rest of the team. They should be able to get a massive haul with what they have. You're going to blow it up. Like there are some talented players in that roster. So I think they blow up. They're going to get good value.
Can you get McCaffrey for only one number 1 pick?
Yeah. I think you can, just because of the injury history and the fact that he is starting to get up there in age. I mean, he does give you all, like, look, you know what he gives you on the field when he's out there. He's unbelievable. He's the best running back in football when he's out there. I don't think there's much, maybe Saquon, but other than that, he's unbelievable. I don't think a team can invest more than that in him, though. I mean, he just hasn't proven that he can stay out there consistently. So
he's 26. He's 26.
I mean, I'm just thinking like I could see a deal where it's like a later pick first and then a first round pick in like another year. Where it's like like short term, it's like you get like a third or fourth round pick, but then the next year you get like a first round pick. Because like I mean, I feel like first of all they want to stack as many assets as possible. They want as many as possible.
Yeah.
Like if they trade McCaffrey for a single first round pick, that better be like the number, like that'd be like a top 5 pick right there that they're getting back. Like they're not going to take it otherwise. So I feel like if they're smart about it, they're going to take a deal that sets them up for the future to come, because that's what, smart GMs usually try to like, build for the future.
I think they get a number 1 pick next year and a conditional third rounder that could become a number 1 the following year because he plays enough. I just think if I'm Carolina, I'm not trading him if I don't get a first rounder plus, because if I get another quarterback in the offseason, this team isn't terrible with that. Now, you might not be able to keep DJ Moore and all that, but let's move on. Let's move on to Titans Commanders. Zach, Ron Rivera, what do you think?
Yes, Ron Rivera was asked earlier today why the other 3 teams in the NFC East are better than the Commanders right now. His answer at first was simply just quarterback, which I find absolutely hilarious that he's pretty much throwing Wentz under the bus harder than pretty much anyone else has in his career so far. Like we've had like kind of thrown under the bus up, but never like outwardly spoken like this. He later clarified that, the team hasn't had enough time to really build around Wentz and, we're just struggling because we're getting used to everything. But it's like, I mean, he's right. I mean, every other team is better built around their quarterbacks, and every other team in the NFC East has a better quarterback right now. Yes, even Daniel Jones is a better quarterback. And you could make an argument for Cooper Rush. I'm thinking more Dak Prescott there. So absolutely hilarious stuff coming out of a horribly run organization because of Dan Snyder. Same old Commanders, same old whatever the Washington football team is. So same old Washington. Let's go with that.
Jesse, thoughts on Wentz? You disagree with Zach?
I mean, look, Carson Wentz, I don't totally disagree. I don't think he's worse than Daniel Jones, but Carson Wentz is the most sacked quarterback in the NFL right now. And it seems like we hear that every year. When he was on Indianapolis, he's the most sacked quarterback. When he's on the Eagles, he's the most sacked quarterback. At a certain point, you start to think, is he the guy who has 6 crazy X's? Or maybe is he the crazy one? Is it that everywhere he goes, the offensive line is just horrible and he becomes the most sacked quarterback? Or maybe he's just not mobile and is bad at reading the pocket. So do with that information what you will, but yeah, I mean, it's bad for them. They're 1-4 right now, and
1-4 right now.
It's just, I mean, hey, shout out Carson Wentz, dude put up 26 fantasy points for me this week. But other than that, the offense, I'm worried about what's going to happen with this offense. There's so many mouths to feed. It's just like they have 3 running backs, but they only give each of them 4 carries. And like, so it's none of them can actually get going in the game now. And then Terry McLaurin's just not that involved. Curtis Samuel has been the only consistent thing in this entire offense. He's been great. Actually, De'Ami Brown had a great game this past weekend too. It seems like they got a lot of really great young receivers. Jahan Dotson is having a great year too, but they're just an embarrassing offense. Their defense has been pretty like solid, but aside from that, like, this is a bad team, and they are downward spiraling right now.
Yeah, I just want to throw it out there. Ron Rivera is going to be the next head coach to get fired. I would be shocked if he's not.
Interesting.
I don't think they can.
I think they can, and I think they will.
I mean, if he can talk to Matt Rule's financial advisor and have the job of $40 million to sit at home and not have to worry about a bad team anymore, like, sign me up. Where is that in Careers Day?
Yeah, it is. You got to work a long time before you get that kind of deal. So
I just wanted to add on one more thing because Jesse was saying, how Wentz is the most sacked quarterback in the league. I think it definitely is more of a Wentz problem because, like, I mean, sure, the Colts were a little like banged up at offensive line time, but they still had Quentin Nelson and the Eagles' offensive line. I mean, the Eagles pride themselves on their trenches, both offensively and defensively. At worst, you could say during Wentz's tenure that he had an average offensive line. Sometimes it was worse, but
I mean, to Wentz's credit, Matt Ryan is also the most sacked quarterback in the NFL right now.
Fair.
So. But also Matt Ryan, like Carson Wentz, is not mobile and can't read the pocket well. So
I'm just saying with the Eagles, I mean, the offensive line has always been a pride of that team. They're always trying to get a good, solid unit that's usually top 15, if not top 10. So I feel like it just speaks a lot about Wentz that he's being consistently sacked on multiple teams at this point.
Yeah, I just want to say shout out to Jason Peters, who's still playing, by the way.
Exactly.
Somehow.
Cowboys Rams. Our colleague David says the Cowboys are who the Steelers think they are. Jack, any thoughts on that?
I mean, he's right. He's what the Steelers wish they were, I think is the better way to put that. They play a similar style of football. They have an incredible defense. They try to run the ball, even though, they're running back. They haven't been that great on the ground, but Tony Pollard does give them some explosive carries. And their passing game is sort of game manager-ish, just try to get their playmakers open in space. It's very similar to the Steelers style, and they just do it better. Yeah, I agree.
So when you say there's an impressive defense or an incredible defense, you were talking about the Cowboys, not the Steelers, right?
Well, the Steelers with TJ Watt is that level.
Which is not happening.
When I was saying that right now, I was referring to the Cowboys.
That's what I thought. Why don't you tell us about Micah Parsons then?
Yeah, I think he's the most valuable player in all of football. I don't think there's. I for years I said that was Aaron Donald. I think Micah Parsons has taken the crown. The guy, he's arguably the best edge rusher in the league, and also arguably the best coverage linebacker in the league. He's a 2-in-1 hybrid guy that is incredible at both. You can't put a price tag on that. It's really it's unbelievable the different ways that they're able to use him. The options that open up for different guys. They're able to rotate in and out based on different packages. He's flexible. He's athletic. He is everything you wish for in a Swiss Army knife of a defensive player. And he's been a incredibly huge reason for the Cowboys' success this year.
All right, going to you, Jesse. Cowboys are 4-0 since Dak got hurt. What's the deal?
I don't know who saw that coming, but this has just been truly them riding the coattails of that defense. Like Zach said, Cooper Rush threw the ball 16 times more than any of us yesterday. So just the fact that they were able to ride that defense to a 22-10 victory. This is back-to-back weeks that the Rams have put up 10 or less points. Very embarrassing for them. But, shout out to Cooper Rush. When we talked about this team in week 1, there was a lot of, is the Cowboys season over after they put up 3 points in the opener against Tampa and lost Dak? And now they're 4-0 since that point. Everyone thought by week 5 or 6 when Dak would be back that maybe they'd be 2-4. And now they could easily be looking at 4-2, 5-1 if they beat the Eagles this upcoming week. So shout out to Cooper Rush for being a really great game manager for them throughout these couple of weeks. But I really think the story here has been Micah Parsons in the defense, but also we've said it every week and we're going to keep saying it until anyone listens to us. But Tony freaking Pollard is just so good. And he just had an amazing game this past week, ripped a really long touchdown run. It seems every week I see a Tony Pollard 40-plus yard highlight on my feed, and just less and less Zeke. And, he's becoming a little more of just like the every down, get a couple yards in the trenches and then just let Tony Pollard fly on a nickel defense or something. So I like the way that they've been using him a lot.
Well, and what's interesting, they have some weird schedule anomaly here where they get the bye week next week against Philly. And then they have Detroit, Chicago, Green Bay, Minnesota. So all 4 NFC North teams in a row after the Eagles game. That's so weird. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. They also have 3 games in a row against the AFC South later, Indy, Houston, Jacksonville, all in a row. But let's go to the weekly segment on the last remaining undefeated team, the Philadelphia Eagles. Zach, we were talking about, when it was that Philly was going to finally lose. I brought up this game, not because it was the next one, just because the Arizona game was just a weird one. And it was close. So give us what's your take on this?
Yeah, this was a game that I had circled on my calendar as being one of the games that I could see us losing. Of course, I'm still confident in this team. Of course, I think, barring injuries, we had a few injuries, but barring injuries, we should be a very talented team. But I am not happy with the Eagles coordinators this week. I am not happy with them. Starting with the defense, Jonathan Gannon, why are you playing a soft zone when Kyler Murray is ripping it apart every single play that the Cardinals are running? They are making forward momentum, and not just like 2-yard, 3-yard like chunks. They're getting 5 to 15 yards on every single play, and you are not changing to a man defense. Just run a man defense. For the first half, they were using 2 guys as receivers, Zach Ertz and Hollywood Brown, and we couldn't stop them in the second quarter. It was absolutely ridiculous. But if you think I'm mad at Jonathan Gannon, I expected to be mad at Jonathan Gannon. I am furious with Shane Steichen. I am furious with that offensive game plan. All it was screen after screen after screen. We have A.J. Brown, and we used him 3 times this game. And when it comes to do or die, quote unquote, of course we won. We got the field goal, and then we might have actually blocked their field goal to try to tie it. But when it was do or die, 3rd down, try to score or get a first down here, they go with a passing play to Quez Watkins in double coverage. And to be fair, Hurts placed it as best as he could, but that ball should have gone to A.J. Brown. They should have gone for a first down instead of a touchdown. It was just a horrible, horrible game plan all around, full of a ridiculous amount of screens. What about the Cardinals defense scares you so much where you can't go down the field, for God's sakes? It was completely awful. And if we have any chance of winning against the Cowboys next week, the game plan needs to be completely changed. We need to burn Trayvon Diggs completely off the face of the football field. And I don't know how else we're going to win. It cannot be 30 wide receiver screens, or I will lose my mind.
Well, it sounds like you've already gone towards
I don't care. I just need to see less wide receiver screens. The wide receiver screens I can see for my college team, for West Virginia, because that's run a lot, and I don't like it there. I can accept that. I can't accept that for my birds. Cannot.
The cute little birds. No, it was. Look, they're going to have these games. They get the luck of playing the AFC South, and it looks like the NFC North. So if you could pick a couple of divisions, I think that's what you would pick, which is maybe why we should be a little less impressed with how the NFC East is doing, but they will have to play each other, so they'll sort it all out. Before we go, I just want to mention that Jesse and I had the privilege this week of interviewing Bruce Pearl, head coach of the Auburn Tigers men's basketball team, and he was awesome. And we look forward to releasing that interview later, probably in early November. Jesse, any thoughts on Coach?
Oh my God, I can't wait to edit these clips and get him out. He cares a lot about basketball and he cares a lot about the Jewish community. So we are really excited to get this out there.
Yeah, he was really cool, and first step of many to the moon. You know, who knows what the next interview will be, but it's going to be a good one. And he just, it's nice when you can ask a question and then he just goes, you know, sets the table for you. So other than when they play my LSU Tigers this year, rooting for the Auburn Tigers because that was awesome. But guys, thanks a lot. Zach and Jack, we'll see you on Wednesday for the big fantasy show. Excited to get into week 6 already. Those of you that have DeAndre Hopkins on your team, it's almost over. You get to put him right in and roll from there. So but thanks a lot.